there's Oroville, this big kind of complicated experiment that everybody's participating in. And then there's each of your individual work, everybody's individual, the thing that you do every day, the thing that you're working for, the thing that brought you here, you want to fundraise for, that you want support for. And there's an interface between those two things. And there's a place where each of you and each of us, our hearts, our souls have brought us into this space to explore life in this, whatever this Oroville thing is. And I just want to take a minute before we start, and you can close your eyes or you can not close your eyes, but it's just going to be a little bit of silence to just tune into that. What is that spark of inspiration for you that brought you to Oroville, that brings you out of bed every day, that brings you into your work, that brings you into wanting to access more, you could say, nourishment or abundance or fullness, possibility for the work that you do? Just take a minute and touch that. It's an energy, it's alive, it's like a light. It's your own unique inspiration. And it opens up into possibility. And it's undefined what that possibility is. And then you can open your eyes if you had them closed. Oroville itself is kind of an audacious dream and a possibility. And when you touch that space inside yourself that interfaces with this bigger possibility, it can, often in the midst of work, we feel a lot of contraction. We feel a lot of like, oh, I can't, or this is the challenge that I'm running up against, or this is, these are all the things that are keeping me from accomplishing my goals. We think about that. We notice limitation. We notice our own limitations, and we definitely notice other people's limitations and the limitations around us. But the place of, if we're going to think about fundraising, if we're going to think about resources and bringing more financial, you can say abundance, but it's like financial possibility, more nourishment for the work that you're doing. It has to come into that, possibility, the openness, the undefined. Where are we going? Might have some idea, we might have some inspiration, some aspiration, but we don't know. That's the whole thing. And sometimes that's a little scary, that I don't know what's possible. What could be possible for this work, for what I'm doing? So I wanted to just feel into that a little bit. And then I will, that's the spirit with which I'm approaching this this workshop today. And maybe down, that's why. Okay. This is me. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. My wife and I own a yoga studio in the US. That's my wife. I have a pointer. Look at that. That's my wife. My kids. I have two kids. One's 17, about to go to college. One is 13. And, I have taught yoga classes in the past. I worked for an international NGO called Best Buddies for a while. I was, this is a picture that I was in the newspaper when I got awarded some, business award in the area I was in. I'm also a musician, and I've done some work in the U.S. around reparations for slavery. So this is a picture that was in the paper last year about that. And these are the things that light me up, that make me excited, that keep me inspired, and things that I try to invite other people into. I play music with other people and for other people. I did the reparations work with my friends and kind of for the broader community. And, yoga, there's like an interface with people. I'm always, there's this, my own personal passion, and then there's it's an offering. Everything that I do is an offering. And in that offering, it's an offering both to kind of participate in the inspiration, join in the inspiration, and Sorry, this echo really gets me. Um, it's an offering to be inspired and to participate in the inspiration, but also the work, the practicality, what could be built together. So that's me a little bit. And this is AVI USA, Oroville International USA. This is our website. And I've been involved with AVI USA for about 5 or 6 years now, and more intensively over the past 2 years. And my friends, AVI USA friends, are here. Bina's back there, and Yana is around somewhere, I think. Yeah, there. Yeah. And, this is the spirit. It's like inspiration and, and uplifting. We're outside. How can we contribute to this beautiful thing that you all are living inside every day? As, from the other side of the world, we can connect with funding, we can connect with technical expertise, we can also inspire people outside as far as what you all are doing. So that's the work that we're engaged in, and that's the context in which I'm coming here is through AVI USA. AVI USA was started in the 1970s, basically as a support. The mission is just to support Oroville, and it's a nonprofit organization registered in the USA. So it's like it's a thing. It's an entity. It's an official entity that's audited by the IRS and all that stuff. But its sole purpose is to support Oroville. That's it, in any way that we possibly can. So when we're trying to find, what to do next, we're making decisions. That's the place that we make it from. How can we support Oroville in this moment with this decision? This workshop today, I'm going to cover 4 major things. The first one is mindset, and it's all obviously have to do with fundraising. Mindset, strategy, messaging, and tools. So that's kind of the overview, the 4 sections that I'll do one at a time. And we're going to start with mindset. When it comes to fundraising, often people, it can seem a little bit like I need something and I need to find somebody to give me the thing that I need. And it can be a little uncomfortable. I need to ask somebody to give me something to meet my needs. And sometimes when we're in a situation like that, we can feel a little bit like we're begging. Please, can I have something from you? Something that you don't really want to give me. But maybe I can convince you to give it to me because I really need it. There's this small place that we can come from. Right, but if I stand too close to this thing, it starts talking to me. Okay, right here, this is my spot. Okay, thank you. The technology thing is new for me. Begging, right? Asking somebody to do something they don't want to do because I need them to. I mean, we have that in our lives, in our families, in our, can you do this for me? I know you don't really want to, but can you just please? Fundraising really isn't that. That's not the way I experience it, and that's not the way it has to be. It doesn't have to be this guy, It can be the cow. Like, we're doing something. Each of you, there's a reason you're doing the thing that you're doing. Think about how much you're giving to this thing that you're creating. How much of your own blood, sweat, and tears and life and, that you're putting into it. So it's not really for you, first of all. You're contributing, you're giving, you're making an offering yourself. And you can invite somebody into, look at this thing that I am going to create. That it's not just one of you. There's a team of people together. You're building something inspiring. And there's a reason that you came into that. And so connecting to that reason and inviting people into it. The same reason that I am inspired, the same reason that I am working, whether it's with a project in the village, or whether it's with project with youth, or whether it's language learning in a dynamic and interesting way, or green building, or whatever unique thing. It's an invitation rather than a begging. And it's a shift from, oh no, I don't have enough. Oh, what am I going to do? And then I'm going to make a choice based on the fact that I don't really have very much. So I'm going to cut corners, and then there's going to be a bad thing that's going to happen, and then I'm afraid again, and around we go. Switching to, okay, this is amazing. I have this opportunity to do this incredible thing. And of course there's limitations. This is like, I don't know if you all noticed, but like Earth is inherently limiting. If you bang something, it hurts. We don't have access to infinite knowledge. As a soul, before you were incarnated, maybe you had access to infinite knowledge. Now you come in here, you consented to be in this plane of duality. It's difficult and painful and ugly and messy and confusing. But here we are. So all that's there. But you get to create. We get to use this stuff, this matter, this world that we're living in to create amazing things together. So there's gratitude for that. And out of the gratitude comes peace of mind. And then you can make a choice that's not like, oh no, what's going to happen if I do the wrong thing? It's like, okay, there's an opportunity here. Every choice is an opportunity. Every decision is an opportunity. So you can make a clear, grounded, good choice. And then there's a positive outcome. And out of the positive outcome comes more gratitude. So this is kind of like, if you think about fundraising, there's a real tendency to get into scarcity. There's not enough, and I better get mine, and if you get in my way, my elbow's coming for you. Versus, like, there's a lot of money out there, and I'm doing something pretty amazing, and if I was out there and I wasn't doing this, wouldn't I want to support this? Wouldn't I want to give to this? Wouldn't I want to be a part of a community that's doing this awesome thing? So it's an invitation, So it's, inspiring other people, inviting other people. That's the mindset. This is the whole thing about mindset that I wanted to offer, is inspiration and not scarcity. So I just want you to take a minute, and hopefully you have something to write with. Not that you have to write down, notes, but I want you to take a minute and just write a few sentences. You can draw a picture if writing isn't your thing. Or you can write words, it can be a poem, it can be a koan, it can be a haiku. What is it that inspires? So whatever you're here to learn about fundraising for, ostensibly there's some kind of specific project you're working on. There's something you want to raise money for. So what is what inspired you? Why are you doing this? Why are you involved? And just for you. Just your own sense of inspiration. So I'm just going to give you like 2 minutes to think about that and write a few things down. And if you don't have a pen, maybe somebody next to you does. And if you don't have a paper, you can write it on your hand. In the space of inspiration, there's need, there's like a problem that you're solving maybe, practically, and there's possibility, what could be. So there's a tangle and there's possibility. So think about those things. What's the problem? What's the need? What's the tangle? What are you solving? And what's the possibility? What could be as a result of the work that you're doing? Each of us has a unique spark, a unique job that we came to do. And not everybody is going to feel connected to your job, thing that you feel inspired by. So this is just you. So we'll shift now to talking about message. And the message is the interface. It's like where you and the community that you want to build, the supporters you want to engage, the people you want to invite to be involved with the work that you're doing. This is the touch point, is the message. This is what you're putting out there into the world. And when I say who are you, I'm not shifting now from who are you as an individual person, but what is the work? What is this project? And how can you define it in a very simple way, in a very clear and compelling, concise, inspiring way? This is an example of a mission statement. This slide, fluff. So we're a nonprofit organization. But the point is the who's being supported? People in developing countries. What's the action? Safe, clean drinking water. What's the bringing safe, clean drinking water? And the result is that people get safe, clean drinking water. Whatever project you're working for may have a mission statement. It may be super long. It may be concise and impactful and compelling like this. But I just want you to take a minute and just imagine you don't have one and rewrite it right now. And you don't have to put it on your website or tattoo it on your arm. It's just an exercise. Just like spontaneously right now. What's the mission? Super concise, super clear, super compelling. Very short. What's the purpose of the work of the project that you are here thinking about? The mission is what what the project does. It's very concrete. Who is being impacted? What is the action? What's the thing that you're doing? And what's the result that it's going to bring about? And remember that this has to reach people. I mean, that's the point of a mission statement. It's not for you to hang up on your wall. You're communicating to people what it is that you do in a way that's going to make sense to them, in a way that they're going to be able to internalize and understand. This is AVI USA's, this is me doing the same exercise. So this isn't necessarily our actual mission statement. Our actual mission statement is a Sri Aurobindo sentence. It's like half a page of one sentence that was written when the organization was founded in the 1970s. But, I did the same exercise. Just rewrite it, right, spontaneously. So AVI USA supports Oroville. That's the basic thing. Supports Oroville, but who knows what Oroville is? I mean, not necessarily the people that I'm talking to. Some of them do. What is Oroville? It's a dynamic living laboratory dedicating to solving humanity's most pressing problems. That's not what everybody would define as Oroville. That may not be what I would define as Oroville tomorrow or the day after, but in that moment, that's what I came up with. And it came from a place of trying to articulate, why should somebody care? And you might care about Oroville because you live here, because your family lives here, because you're inspired by the vision, because you are devoted to Sri Aurobindo and the mother. You may have all kinds of different reasons for being inspired by Oroville, but somebody who has never heard of Oroville, who's just living a life, and we're in the United States, right? Why should they care about Oroville? We do lots of experiments, sending people to space, building bombs, trying to figure out how to make plastic harder. People invest a lot in experiments, but an experiment in human unity and diversity. That's a unique kind of experiment. And the results of that experiment are accessible to the world. So, that's kind of the line that I was thinking along. This is just a little bit, I'm not going to get too much into this, but generally an organization will have a mission, a vision, and values. And those will be the mission is the what, the values are the vision is the why. What kind of future do we envision? What's going to come about as a result of this work? Why are we doing it? And I'll make these slides available, so you can feel free to take pictures of them, but I will send you the slides themselves, or Helen will, or Manjula will. And the values are like, how do we do it? What are we committed to as far as, because you can create access for clean water for people in developing countries in lots of different ways. And I don't mean ways as far as like, the tangible things, but like, what do you stand for as an organization? What makes you unique? What are the values? What behaviors do we value over all else? How will we conduct our activities to achieve our mission, right? So what are the kind of collective, we're going to do it like this. So when you have these, then you can start to communicate outwards to people. If these are not clear to you, and I'm talking to you as an individual who's sitting here in this room, but there's generally a project is more than one person, there's a group. If you're not clear and operating with clarity about all of this, it's going to be very hard for you to engage other people. And when you engage other people, there could be mismatched expectations, because they could be like, hey, but you said it was going to be like this, and it turned out like this, and I thought you were going to use my money for this, and you ended up using it for that. And especially when we start to talk about engaging donors over the long term, myself as a donor, if I give you money, I want to know what happened to that money. And I want you to tell me. I don't want to have to chase you to find out. I want you to proactively come back to me and be like, you know what happened? That $1 you gave me, that 100 rupees you gave me, I was able to do X, Y, Z, and it was so amazing. And, I want you to share that with me. But if you're not clear about these things, it's going to be harder for you to be communicating clearly to the people outside about what you did and how you did it. Because the things you're going to talk about, like this shapes what you focus on. It shapes what you're measuring. And what you're measuring shapes what you do. Like, so how do you define success? Should be related to your mission statement, the vision that you're trying to create for the world, and the values. That's how you define success. Are you living up to what you set out to do? If you're not clear about that, then it's going to be a lot harder to tell whether you're doing it or not. And if you can't tell, then you can't tell other people. So why does it matter? This is the vision piece, So there's the what of the mission, and there's the why does it matter. So just if there's anything you want to add to what you've written so far in this context, mission, vision, values, and the vision, why? Why does it matter what you're doing? I'm just giving you time to it's like a ball of Play-Doh. Just like mush it around in your hands a little bit. I'm not going to ask you to show me a sculpture at the end. Just kind of play with this. Why does it matter what you're doing? If I asked you, if you're having a conversation with me as a potential donor, why does it matter? Why should I care? There's so many things to donate to. There's so many things, amazing things going on out there in the world. Why does what you do matter? And you can write 5 different things for 5 different people. You can think about, your uncle, or you can think about the person that you met at the market yesterday, or you can think about your cousin's sister. Just think about different kinds of people. Why would they care? And you're not trying to meet everyone. Everyone in the world is not going to donate to your project. And if you try to, then you get too washed out, too bland, trying to meet everyone's needs. But if you were trying to, make a connection for somebody, it's like you put it out there, and it's like fishing a little bit. You put it out there and you see what connects. Why does it matter? The why is your sense of purpose. And you have to share your passion with people. That's what is going to attract and invigorate and enliven and engage donors or supporters of any kind, is your passion. And so nurturing that passion, that why you're doing it, in yourself is really important. If you have the opportunity to talk with a donor, somebody who's donated before, might donate in the future, if you don't have ready access to your sense of passion, then you're going to miss the opportunity. This is just a little bit of a more kind of concrete and practical way to think about this. I think it's interesting, having thought about fundraising a lot, it's an interesting slide here. So things that you tend to want to tell your donor, you want to tell them about your mission and your values, why you need the money and your approach, and you've been in the news and how great you are, and you're on Facebook and all that. And this is what the donor wants to hear. What you achieved with my money. Why I made the right decision to support you. That you value me, that you think I'm special. That you know why I give and what I care about. That you remembered what I've done and what I've said. And then there's this in the middle. How we helped solve a problem. Right? Mm-hmm. Because that's your work, is solving the problem. And that's what they want to do. They want to solve a problem. They want to be a part of something. They want to feel like, wow, we did something together. We achieved something. We were successful. And, it doesn't mean you ignore these things on the other one side or the other. You find that interfacing place where the thing that they want to hear from you and the thing that you want to tell them touch each other. Okay. Still having a hard time. So I feel like I'm on a tightrope a little bit. If I go too far that way, then the thing shines in my face. If I go too far that way, then I'm in the spaceship. Okay. Strategy. All right. I didn't skip one, right? Okay. So, when I'm talking with projects about fundraising, I'm always using this metaphor of the funnel. The one end of the funnel is wide, and the other end of the funnel is narrow. And at the top of the funnel, this is the interface point with the world. The whole world is out there, outside that funnel. And the first layer here is prospects, people that might theoretically be interested in what you're doing and wanting to support it. And then once you have this pool of prospects, some of those prospects become engaged. Not all of them do, and that's fine. Some of them become engaged. And you have to put energy into developing prospects. And you have to put energy into converting prospects into people who are engaged. And you have to put energy into taking the people who are engaged, like my hand, and making them into supporters. So, engaged means they're reading your emails, they're looking at your social media, they're paying attention, but they're not necessarily doing anything. They're not necessarily contributing, right? That we're going to talk about that bring people from prospects to engagers. And from engagers to supporters, and from supporters. So a supporter is somebody that has given something, contributed something. It might be money, it might be time, whatever. Sustainers are people who are regularly supporting. So you might have somebody who contributes one time and then never again. And then there's the people who contribute over time. They're sustaining the organization, the project. And then there's ambassadors. They're the ones who are calling their friends and be like, you know what, you really should get involved with this because this is amazing. It's changing my life. So this is kind of the trajectory, the funnel. And at this end, there's very few people, and that's fine. And at this end, there's a whole big lot of people. And it's basically just a matter, the point is to think about each of these groups of people intentionally. What am I going to do for this group of people to just bring them a little bit closer, a little bit further down? And it's a service. It's not a... you're not dragging an animal, you're not pulling, it's not about pulling people to where they don't want to go. That's again, this scarcity idea. I have to get these people, all these prospects to be ambassadors, even though they don't really want to. How am I going to do that? How am I going to manipulate them? Let me think of a really good manipulative way to do this. No. I'm serving them. Because there are people in that prospect pool right now who would love to be involved. They would get so much out of it. Their life would be fulfilled. I'm just helping them. What pathways, concrete pathways, can I create to make it super easy for them to get from here to there? Because right now there's all kinds of limitations. They're distracted. They don't know how. Your donor portal doesn't work. You have to go on, your website isn't not easily navigable. Your emails are confusing. Whatever it is, all these obstacles are just making it difficult for them. They want to be there. So it's just kind of opening. We're creating simple, open pathways. So this breaks this down a little bit more. At the top, we have awareness. This is the kind of the wide end of the funnel. Prospects. Facebook posts, Google search, advertisements, word of mouth. This is how people are engaging. They see stuff out there. So we have to think about, what are these things? What are the Facebook posts? What are the, if you're doing advertisements, I mean, some of these are kind of more generally targeted towards nonprofit organizations in the US. Word of mouth, what are people saying? How can you, public events, how can you intentionally shape these things to help engage people who are not, this is kind of awareness, these people are considering involvement. So they've given you their email. You have their phone number, you have their address. Now you're communicating with them directly. It's like, Facebook and Instagram and these social media things, it's like busking. You're out on the street corner and people are like, oh, that's interesting over there, and maybe, and they pay attention to you for about 3 seconds and then they're gone, right? Mm-hmm. Once you have their email, they're there now. They've stopped. They're paying attention to you. They're not as distracted. I mean, of course, we all have email. It's not, zero focused on every email that you get. But a phone call, they're in your shop. They've walked through the door. They're inside. When you're on the phone with them, they're there. So it's kind of like, people get kind of, the wide end of the funnel, there's a lot going on for people. As you kind of come into the funnel, you've become more of an integral aspect of their awareness. The many things that they're paying attention to. The significance of your work is becoming more significant in their awareness. Then, from consideration, you've made the phone call, you've sent the mail, you've emailed them, then maybe some of them are going to come to your actual donation page. And maybe they'll make a recurring donation. And then again, as I said before, the advocates, the ambassadors, are going to forward the email to a friend. They're going to invite somebody to one of your events. They're going to host a fundraiser themselves. So they're actually specifically going out of their way to bring more people. And honestly, they have a lot better chance of bringing people into your organization than you do. Because they're not perceived as having something to gain. They're not perceived, it's like people are going to trust somebody in a different way who's not working for the organization. Of course, your consistent sincerity on authenticity is going to build trust for yourself as well. But they're already positioned like that. If my friend says it, then I'm more likely to listen than just, some random email that I get. Again, this, a little bit more nuanced. So at the point of engagement, somebody gives one donation, right? That's the first, it's kind of a different framing of the funnel, one donation. Then they give another donation. Now they're a loyal donor. And a loyal donor has the capacity to make a major gift. A major gift in fundraising terminology is like, something, it's not a certain amount of money universally. It's like something that is a game changer for your project. Whatever that is, whatever you're doing, suddenly somebody drops a chunk of money on you that changes the situation. That's a major gift. And then a principal is somebody who's consistently doing that, consistently funding at a large level your operations. Maybe they've allowed you to expand into a whole new area that you weren't able to do before. And it may be them, and it may be a small group of people. They've invited their friends, and they've said, I'm going to make sure this happens. Over the next 5 years, I'm there with you. So again, it's all kind of moving people in that direction. So that is the message section. And so we've got the mindset of inspiration, engagement, invitation, and thinking about your message. And this is not hopefully, a done deal. I hope you don't all feel like, okay, I've got my message done. It evolves every day. Think about it. Think about what are you saying? Think about your own why and your own sense of purpose, and talk to each other. You know, if you have a small team, about why you're doing this. There's a matrix. I think there's a quote that I don't know which U.S. president said, but things are generally either important or urgent, but they're rarely both, or never both, maybe. You know, there's a matrix of, you know, on one side things are important. Well, I'm not going to try to describe it visually, but you get what I'm talking about. Urgent is like, oh shoot, we need to fix this problem right now. Important is, this problem was caused by this other problem, which was caused by this other problem. It's like getting to the root of the thing. You can always be kind of firefighting, right? You can always be putting out fires. But if you don't ever determine the source of the fires, then you're going to keep having fires. You're going to spend all your energy putting them out. And a firefighting culture, organizational culture, produces arsonists. Because it feels really good to put out fires. And if there's no fires, then you don't get that fix, that hit, right? So thinking about what's important, sinking down, kind of going deeper into what are the fundamental issues that we're dealing with, and how can I start to address those? That's messaging is one of those things. What your message is a fundamental, deep issue that needs attention, that shouldn't be put on the back burner because you're fighting fires. Okay, so we're going to get a little tactile here. Tools. Email. Email is a tool. So you have an email list, you have an email platform, you have email content, and you have frequency. I wrote consistency because that's the frequency that I want you to be thinking about. The list, the platform, the content, and the frequency. Social media is the same thing, basically. The email list is your audience. The platform is your platform. The content is the content. Same thing. But you know, in social media, there's a different way that you're going to connect with people. You're going to touch people, put content out there on social media. And then there's live events, whatever that looks like for you. In direct opportunities to engage. And I wrote threshold there. Emails are kind of internal in the sense of what I was talking about before. They're like in your shop a little bit. They're closer. Social media is external. It's the kind of wide end of the, talking to the wide end of the funnel. And live events are at the threshold. They're like kind of, you know, they're entering. It's an opportunity to directly interact with somebody. So in the survey that I put out there for this workshop, one of the questions I asked was, do you have an email list? Do you have social media accounts? Do you have an email server? And there was quite a wide variety of answers. So I know that you're all operating from different points as far as all this goes. And if you have no email list at all, then it's going to be different than if you have 3,000 good emails. You know, good emails means it's not just junk. It's not just like, you know, you found it on the internet, or the people, they want to hear from you. So how to develop your strategy is going to depend on where you're starting from. And you're going to need to think about, what's the next thing that I need to do? And if the next thing you need to do is to think about, okay, how do I build an email list? I mean, everybody needs to think about how to build the email list, but if you have none, then you're thinking about it in a different way. How do I build my email list? So people, I mean, all of you guys, well, probably not universal, but a lot of the projects in Oroville, people pass through. They may volunteer, they may come for a day, they may just come to check out your work. So where are those people now? A lot of these projects, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of projects have been around for a while. Where did those people go if they had a meaningful interaction with you? Did you lose them? Are they gone? Are you keeping track of that information somewhere? You have a system for keeping track of that information. And if you don't, then the only thing to do is to start now and create a system for keeping track of the information of the people that have been through. You can, depending on what access you have as far as website development, you can create a Well, let me just back up actually. So platform. I know a lot of projects in Orville send emails out through Gmail individually. From what I understand, and I don't know the specific nuances of this, but from what I understand, there's a risk if you're sending emails out to a large group of people, BCCing a lot of people from your personal Gmail account, you can get a spam score. Once you get a spam score, your emails are all going to spam. So if Gmail or if whoever is the email wizards, the disembodied email wizards, the logarithms, decide that you are probably spamming people, they're going to give you a spam score and you're going to end up with all your emails in spam. That's why, one of the reasons why MailChimp and these other servers exist is because they have ways of mediating some of that. The other thing is, if you're sending it through Gmail, a lot of you guys are sending attachments. I know because I get them and I don't open them. And most people probably don't either open attachments. It says newsletter. And especially if it's a long one, it's not happening. That's not how I interact with email, and I think that's not how a lot of people interact with email. So MailChimp will allow you the opportunity to put together a email, like a whole template, a whole thing that people just open up and it's all right there. I don't recommend that you make it super long. That's something that we need to work on ourselves. But yeah, Ishwari's always telling me, keep it shorter, and we've been condensing. But there's a temptation, like, oh, this is so amazing, so many amazing things are happening. I need to tell you all of them right now. And when I'm halfway done, I realize that you're all the way over there, and I'm still talking, right? As opposed to, like, this is what's important right now. The other thing, when it comes to email, and especially when it comes to donations, I've been talking to different project holders about donations in Orville for a little while. And one of the things I've heard is, I don't want to be too heavy-handed. You're not sending an email once a week saying, please donate, please donate, please donate, please donate. No, you're giving people something, offering them something, a point of connection, people who care about your work, who care about Orville, who are in the kind of ethos, the scene that you're in. They've been to the language lab and they've had an experience there and they want to know what's going on, what happened last week. Give them something, tell them a story, show them a video, put them in touch with that. They want that. That is the primary thing that you're doing. The donation thing is secondary. And at a certain point, once you've built a community of people that are supportive of your work and you've offered them and there's a kind of mutual trust there, then you can make a direct ask. And it's much better to do that over the phone or kind of directly. But you can even, you can have an event, you can have a campaign that is just about fundraising. That's fine. But you have to build the trust first, and you have to build that sense of, nobody wants to just kind of be pulled on all the time for donations. The other thing is, if you're offering them, the emails, you're focusing on what can I offer them. At the end of the email, as long as it's not too long, or somewhere reasonable, it's just like, I was talking to Krishna McKenzie. He's got these videos you may know. It's kind of YouTube famous Krishna, right? Especially in Tamil Nadu. And, he's got nothing. There's no way for somebody who watches that video to donate to Solitude Farm. No, there's not a connection to the website. There's nothing there. So just creating a simple way that you say, like, do you like this? Do you like this content? Do you enjoy this? Do you want to support it? Do you want to do you want to be a part of creating more of it? That's it. It's just like the invitation is there. So that's the kind of like the wide end of the funnel. Is not a lot of pulling, not a lot of like grabbing onto donors and trying to convince them to do stuff. It's just like, you know what, we are doing some amazing stuff. If you know what's good for you, you would be hanging around here. Because this is where it's at. It's so fun. It's so dynamic. We're changing the world. That's it. If you want to, and if you want to support it, here's a simple way. But it's not like, please, please, please. We're going down. We're sinking. We need your money. Nobody wants to support a sinking ship. Nobody wants to give to a desperate cause. We've mismanaged our money already, all the funds that we got before. Can you please give us some more? Nobody wants to be involved in that. We are changing the world. We are doing amazing things. We're going to keep doing amazing things. We could do so much more. That's the wide end of the funnel. And that's what you're giving to that group of people at the wide end of the funnel. And kind of, I'm talking about email now, but social media is even more wide like that. I would say that the amount of sense that you're even asking for donations in the social media space should be a very low percentage. It's really, you're just getting people engaged. That's it. You want them to stick. You want to be like flypaper. You want to create something really catchy, really awesome, really interesting, really engaging, get people to engage with it, and then bring, hopefully they'll sign up for your email, they'll sign up for an event that you're having, something like that. So that's the wide end. Then email, again, is a little more. The pathway to contribute is very clear and simple. And I'll talk more specifics about pathways shortly. The content that you're creating has to be, you have to be thoughtful about it. And this is the important urgent matrix. I have to get a Facebook post out. That's urgent. Okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to really think about how I can create something beautiful. That's important, right? The two different ways of thinking about social media. I'm going to stop and I'm going to think about something really beautiful that I can offer to the world versus, shoot, I need to get a post out. I'm going to just throw something up there, whatever, just whatever picture's the first thing on my phone. So that's there. The same thing applies to email. How are you offering? But it's a little more cultivated now. It's a little more, these are people that are on your email list. Just kind of, so I don't forget to say it, MailChimp does have a free account that I know some people use and are happy with. So money isn't the thing. Doesn't have to be that you have to pay for something. And theoretically, if you start a fundraising machine, then you'll have money to pay for a paid MailChimp account that has different bells and whistles on it. And consistency just means don't just show up and disappear and show up and disappear. You got to be present for the donors, for the prospects, for the engagers, for the supporters, and especially for the ambassadors. You got to be present. You got to show up. Bina calls every person who makes a donation to AVI USA. Bina calls them if we have their phone number, and if we don't, she emails them and says, "What's your phone number?" and then calls them every time. And that can seem a little overwhelming, but we know when we started doing this, when I started with AVI USA 6 years ago, I said, "Okay, who are the donors?" It's I don't know. So I went in QuickBooks and I looked them up and I found a list of names. Okay, who are these people? What are they like? Why do they donate? Nobody really knew. We know now because Bina's calling these people. She knows what kind of projects they're interested in. She knows why they donated. She knows when their kids' birthdays are. She knows, what their connection to Oroville is, whether they grew up here or they went to the ashram school and now they're in Silicon Valley or, whatever it is. You got to know your people and think about them as individuals, and especially as you get to that narrow end of the funnel. These are individual people and they have different reasons for engaging, and think about that and offer them help in being more engaged. Again, you're being of service to people. You're not picking their pocket. You're helping them stay connected. I'll talk more about live events too. So yeah, content is images, videos, stories, personal and engaging. You want to tell the story of an individual person. Give people something valuable, stay consistent, and consistency also has to do with what's your branding, what's your logo, what are the visuals that are connected with your organization. So when people open the email, they know it's you. When they see your social media, they know it's you. You're recognizable. All right, so I'm going to just stop before I get into the next piece and ask if there's any questions.
I'm wondering if you have a sense of how to recommend a specific amount of time for a unit or for a person to allocate to these, to this whole field, because often I feel, even before the IUSA, I always thought I just have to do my work, this is secondary
Yeah.
and it's not.
So it's a very good question. When I talk to somebody who is running a significant project, what I say to them is, it can't be you. It needs to be you need to find someone on your team who's going to do this, because otherwise it's always going to be on the back burner. The person who's running the project often does not have time to attend to this. When I ask a unit, like if I'm going to support a unit, or if I will ask them, do you have somebody who can give 4 to 8 hours a week? So I would say 4 hours a week is like the minimum. If you're going to send a newsletter out once a month, which is ideal, if you're going to really attend to social media, and if you're going to track and pay attention to your donors, it depends on the size of the operation, and it depends on where you are. Are you building an email list, or do you already have a list of 100 donors that you're dealing with and tracking and managing and thanking and cultivating and stewarding? Then it's more time than that. But ostensibly, if you have that many donors, then you have enough money to dedicate a person to 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week of that. But to start out, like, somebody needs to be devoted to this, just this. And 4 hours a week is a bare minimum to start. And I think, when I look at the kind of landscape of the Orville projects and the work that's being done versus the amount of engagement that you guys have in this kind of area of consistent supporters, there's a huge amount of possibility. There's a huge amount of opportunity. So I think if you dedicate 6 hours a week for a little while, you're going to have enough of demonstration that it works and enough revenue coming in that you can allocate more time to it. But it starts with just, somebody's got to attend to it, and it has to be consistent and regular.
I wanted to ask if you distinguish between institutional donors and private donors, and for some of the units in Orville generally, would you recommend us to focus on private donors because there are many of them, or should we go for the Rockefellers of this world? And what should be the approach?
Moonshot. Everybody wants the moonshot, the Hail Mary.
10 million, yeah.
Yeah. So in my I didn't say this before, I think it was in my bio, but just to kind of fill out my background a little bit, I was responsible for half of the US operation for a NGO with like $25 million annual budget. So I was responsible for about $12 million a year. I hired and trained people who were responsible for raising that money. So I oversaw 10 people in 10 different states around the US who were responsible for their own fundraising. I was also responsible for the grants department. So this is the interface, grants versus the other thing. So I have a lot of experience, like kind of hands-on experience. Grant writing, you can't think of it as a Hail Mary and a moonshot. Grant writing is hard, consistent relationship development work. If you happen to meet somebody who has the capacity to connect you with a foundation that can give you $1 million tomorrow, that is amazing for you. It's probably not going to happen, and I wouldn't spend your day waiting. Hold on. He might come. I can't do anything else, We have to get on with our lives. And when I think of kind of engaging on that level, it's a relationship development process. There are databases, the foundation directory in the US is one, that lists every registered foundation in the United States and it's searchable based on their category, what they give to, what countries they give to. You can see all their previous giving, the amount of awards they've given. So you can dig in and research that, find 2 or 3 foundations that might be a good fit, and send them a proposal. Call them first. Grant writing is not that different than donor development. You want to call them and say, hey, I'm thinking about submitting a proposal. Do you think this is a good idea? Am I barking up the wrong tree here? It'll save you a lot of time, because a grant proposal takes a lot of time. And if they say, actually, no, you can say, thank you, because I'm not going to spend my time doing it. And then you're going to call somebody else and find a good fit, and then you develop the content in the proposal, and then you submit it, and you don't ask for $1 million the first time. You probably ask for, much smaller amount, and then you cultivate the relationship. You submit the report on time. You submit the report early. You keep in touch with the grant administrator about, and then the next time you ask for a little bit more, like that. But yeah, I would not spend my time waiting to be struck by lightning. Yeah. Sorry, there's a bunch. Did you have more, man? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to ask about CSR
Yeah.
funding.
What about it?
Because all this doesn't really target those,
No.
right?
So, and this is a little bit tied to what Min's saying. It's a whole nother topic, and I think better that I'll just frame out this presentation is about individual kind of sustainers. That's what I'm talking about here. CSR funding is a little bit between grant writing and, in the US it's like corporate donors. I don't have experience working within the specific CSR system, but in the US, like corporate donors, it's sometimes there's a proposal you have to write, sometimes it's a handshake, it's a relationship development. But when I think about opportunity for Orville projects, this is what I think about. Where the biggest opportunity is. We think about systems that are oriented to donating money as like, oh, how can I tap into that system? Maybe there's something there, but these are people. And I don't know how CSR works exactly, but grants especially, they will tell you how to spend that money, and they want to know how every paisa was spent, and they want a full report. These people don't need that. They want to know what happened. They want to, so if it's like suddenly you have to shift, oh shoot, we can't spend money on that right now. We have to focus on this. We have to spend money differently in order, who's going to pay your rent? Who's going to pay for the maintenances of people? They are. These people are happy to cover overhead. As long as you do the thing that you're saying you're going to do. So it's much more flexible funding, and I just think it's the low-hanging fruit. I'm not that familiar with CSR though, so maybe there's something there, but you should ask somebody else who knows more than me. Michael?
Yeah, I wanted to know, maybe you come to that a bit later, but is there any sort of research on the psychology of donors? And I'm speaking now than private donors. I just take my own example that when I was in my 20s or when I was working in corporates, I didn't really give a damn on like supporting, like foundations or nonprofits. And it feels like you could also really reduce the spectrum of research, or at least your targets, on knowing which type of event you can go and present your project, because obviously if you go to a corporate sort of event, you guys will not really care about that. But like, is there any sort of documentation, like how to really properly target the people that would be actually in favor of supporting nonprofits projects?
It's an interesting question because you're kind of answering it in the question. I mean, first of all, you want to be thinking about who are the people that are going to care about you, right? Like, you're asking me for research about it, but research would just, there's as many projects and as many different kinds of people in the world as there's as many different kind of people in the world as there are different kind of projects in the world, right? So you could have a wide array of research that tells you a lot of different things about each of those different kind of people. None of that matters. All that matters to you is who the people are that are going to connect to your project. You don't need to know who the people are that are going to connect to like clean water or to, whatever. You just need to know what is the psychology of those people. So what data points do you need? Do you need data points, or you need to just feel them? This is not an intellectual exercise at a certain level. Who are they? What do they care about? What are they passionate about? What's going to motivate them to contribute? And try some stuff. Do your own research. Put something out there. See what happens. I mean, that's what we're doing all the time. We try stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work. That didn't work. Not going to do that again. Or maybe we'll, tweak it a little bit this way or that way. So yes, you can get books about the psychology of fundraising. And some of this is based on that, this kind of stuff that I'm talking about. But academic, things get very cerebral and academic and abstract. Like, what's the good of the abstraction if it doesn't directly apply to what you're going to actually do and your project? Bina.
I just want to say that I am a big believer in picking up the phone, as he said. And I talk to every single person, and that's what I ask them. What do you care about? Why, how are you connected with us? And I find if somebody gives me a phone number and says, call them, I call them. And I don't think there is any research better than human connection. Because whoever it is that you already know likes your projects, that's the place to start. Do you know anybody else we can call?
Mm-hmm.
That I can't tell you, that is the best research,
And I kind of sense in your question a little bit like, what do we do to start out? Like, how can we make sure that the thing that we're going to do is going to work and have the highest conversion rate possible? My suggestion is just try something. Because again, the abstraction and the ideas, you can get lost in all that research and ideas, and then you never do anything. Just try something. It might not work the first time.
There's also like on social media groups, which include LinkedIn, there are professional support groups that discuss this in depth, where to go, how to present yourself. So if you can figure out, what industry or what field you're in, and you join a professional group on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can get a lot of tips of where to go and what connections to make.
It's good to have access to a wide variety of ideas, but I'll tell you, I said I was responsible for hiring and training and mentoring and supporting fundraisers and firing them. And so I saw a lot of what didn't work. And when I hired people who had a high pedigree and had a lot of theoretical knowledge, often did not really work out so well. And when I hired people who were scrappy and persistent and creative and curious, who didn't know really anything about fundraising, they were the ones that succeeded, honestly. And I kind of, over the course of my work in that space, really started leaning in that direction. Who's going to show up and try stuff and be curious and keep going, and as opposed to like somebody who knows how to do it, but they don't know how to like clean the office, or they expect somebody to make their coffee for them. I mean, that's the environment that I was working in. But. Yeah, one more. Oh, sorry, Danny, go ahead.
I'm failed in thinking, for example, the consistency, some things that you mentioned, and
Yeah.
I'm always looking at the balance between too much information and targeted information.
Mm-hmm.
And here in Oroville, a lot of project holders are not dealing only with their projects and are busy with other things. And I myself can say, I want to give time, but I'm really not getting there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good idea, and I'm not talking about service of fundraising, and service only for the communication. Keep the consistency and simple information, because I understood I don't need to write a newsletter of 4 pages, 2 pages, even 1 page. For me, just to send a picture with 1, 2, 3 sentences to kind of follow up and keep in touch.
Yeah.
If I would have a service like this, that somebody have all my cheat mail, I have everything, all the social networks, that he can do this weekly or whatever we decide. Give them all the database that we have, like thousands of photos and a lot of text. And find the people that can do it. And again, I'm saying they are not fundraiser. Communication.
Are you talking about when you
Like
say
to create a
service?
for all real projects, I mean.
Yeah.
Create 2, 3 people sitting in the office, working, having all these projects, and I don't know if we can contribute to this service something. But, I don't know where it comes, but to have this help.
This is a priority of mine personally,
Okay, cool.
and of AVI USA. We're looking for people, and we're kind of started talking to a few people about building this service. And, there's a few things. One is that I have a concern about in this space. One is if we provide the service, sometimes if you're doing something for somebody, it's like, oh, whatever. Are people going to really give nobody can fully do it for you. The second thing is if Oroville doesn't, and this is something from AVI USA perspective that we see all the time, Oroville was, we need this. Can you fund this? If Oroville doesn't invest in it, is it valued? Or do we just drop something in and it's like nobody really cares. It's not, the investment in the community isn't there. But if something like the FAMC, for example, was behind an effort like that, then it's different. It has some legitimacy. It has some, So, yeah, go ahead, Mita.
In fact, Danny and I are both members.
I know, that's why I said it.
And actually, people, I would really like we could do a follow-up specifically on this because we haven't publicized it, but we want to do something called this abundance subgroup, which is precisely to look at moving from scarcity mentality to abundance mentality. So I'm so happy that you said that. And on multiple different levels. So all of those who are interested in doing this for Oroville as a whole, I think we can use Matthew and Dina, being here to make a follow-up and really see who's really interested, like you said, who's really going to be able to do the work and wants to do the work, is inspired to do the work, and we look at for Oroville as a whole, what can we do? So people, please feel free to, contact Danny and I, and afterwards, and we through Matthew, we make something. Yeah?
Great.
I just want to add what you said is very important. I was trying to not to be wrong in what I'm saying. There is this risk that people will lose the contact with the donors or the contact with the project. Somebody is doing the workshop. It's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's really, really important to understand.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's more on the technical, simple level. It means even to go to the project manager and ask him and tell him you need to do this, maybe you need to call to this donor,
Yeah.
kind of a follow-up and making sure there is a consistency and meaningful
I mean,
information.
Flourish is about creating shared services that support projects. And so this is definitely in that, this is a shared services question. It's what you're asking, and it's a priority, and it's about how. Yeah, definitely. So it's just, we want it to come together in a good way. Divyanshi, just hold 1 second. Chaitanya, go ahead.
My question is more relevant to the vision, mission section of the presentation. In my experience, Oroville itself, as we know, has a very clear mission and vision, and I think it's best captured in the dream that we noted in the chapter. For any service unit, commercial unit, or activity, in your experience, or even if that has not happened moving forward, how would you say every unit activity should embody the Oroville mission and vision, especially when it comes to the role of money? Have you seen it succeed? And if you haven't, and I call this out because it's amazing that we're going through this fundraising 101. Matthew and I have been there, done that. And we need it, we need this foundation, but we are in Oroville for a reason that's beyond this. So either, because even within the units and activities that are in Oroville, there's a whole ecosystem that can help fundraise for each other. But I don't want to get into solutioning. I just want to know, because I know you've had years of experience, and even recently with Flourish, how might we embody as a unit or a service that's born and is going to be brought up in Oroville to embody the role of money? Because fundraising is a fancy word. It's finally Lakshmi. How do we embody that in our mission?
I can.
Yeah, I think that you're asking a specific question about mission and vision, but that's not really what you're asking. You're asking how do Oroville projects recognize and align themselves with the fact that they're not just out there in the world doing anything, whatever their specific work is, it's in the Oroville context. And I would even say it's like kind of less of a question and more of an encouragement for everybody in the room to kind of not just remember that, but consider how does that influence the work that you're doing. The fact that we are in this kind of collective that has an intentionality, that's connected to a dream and inspiration. How do you make that a part of the effort?
I just want to say that that's the whole message. when we talk, I always say we're not asking for money, we're connecting hearts. And when I'm speaking to someone, I having grown up in Oroville, that's where I speak from. And usually, not always, but by the end of the call, often what I get is, you tell me what you need and I'll give it to you. And I think it's there. It is there, and it is in every project and in everybody's work. And that's the place I come from when I speak to donors, for sure.
Can I get a time check? 11:08. Okay, good. Divyanshi,
There was one more hand here, Matthew.
is it up before Divyanshi's hand?
No, they not yet hand.
My question is more about social media content. Should the consistency of the content we post be connected to fundraising as call to action, or that would be too needy or tempting?
That's what I was trying to say before, is you don't want to have it all be about fundraising call to action. No, you want it to be about offering people something. You're not thinking about what you're going to get. When you're doing these, the bulk of your social media should not be thinking about what you're going to get. It's about what are you offering people. As far as a connection point. You think about Mohanam in particular, like, what's a story of a particular person whose life has been changed? And how can you offer that to somebody so that they're, people love that human interest, the sense of compassion, and the sense of possibility that comes from that. So much more thinking about that. And then as people come down into the funnel, that's when there's more of a, have you thought about how you might contribute, or have you thought about, it's like if somebody's coming on a tour, you're not asking them to volunteer necessarily. You might tell them that there's an opportunity to volunteer, but if they come back a second time and they express interest, kind of the more people are there, starting to introduce that quality of inviting more directly. Okay, Divyanshi, sorry.
Essentially, once we rolled out a pre-launch to a course,
Yeah.
and we got lots of people signing up, giving their email IDs, about 100 plus people easily, and in a matter of a day or so. So I was like very happy that, okay, so many people are interested. And they gave their phone numbers and stuff. And then I asked our team of volunteers to call them up. And then none of them were interested. Then I said, how can it be? There have been more than 100, 150 people who were saying they're interested, and it came within a day's time. So then I randomly picked up, 12 of them, and I called them up. And everybody I called up was interested and signing up. So what I also realized is, if I do this calling up, I know it works, but it requires a lot of time and energy and bandwidth from my end if I were to call up 150 people and have this conversation, and I'm running the project, so I want somebody else to do it. But what I often see when I ask my team of volunteers to do, they feel shy. They feel shy that how can I ask something like this? How can I talk about something like this? And invariably, I've seen phone calls kind of backfire. So after that, I said, no phone calls, we do emails. We don't contact over phone calls. But I heard, you speaking about phone calls, you speaking about phone calls. Are there some guidelines? How do we do these phone calls?
Well, where I started with this whole workshop was with mindset and inspiration. And if you have a group of volunteers that need training, it sounds like, it's like identifying what's the problem. Okay, the problem is when they call, no conversion. When you call, conversion. Okay, there's a mismatch. So how do you get it so that when they call, there's a conversion? That's a simple, okay, there's the problem is identified. What kind of training do they need? And not everybody is going to be game for this. Not everybody's going to be the right person. So maybe it's one of them, or finding the volunteers who have the capacity and providing them. Okay, so let's do a role play. I'm going to call you, or you call me, and try. What are you going to do? And giving them feedback. So okay, you said this. When you said this, I kind of felt like I wanted to get off the phone. So, or just trying to really investing in. You can give up on it. That's one solution. Forget about that, I'll just call them myself, or we won't call them at all. Or you can train them, invest time in them.
You
Yeah,
can create a course.
yeah, exactly.
Train your
Porno labs.
Veena can be the expert.
Exactly. Okay, we could go all day with the questions. There is more, but I don't want to leave anybody hanging. So go ahead. Let's. Yeah, you. Okay.
Related actually. So I don't really understand the algorithms for Instagram and Facebook.
Mm.
If you don't have thousands of followers already, how do you like leverage these mystery algorithms to work in your favor or to get some traction?
I'm going to offload this question, not right now, but you should talk to Ishwari after, and she will talk to you about Facebook and Instagram algorithms. You can do the next training.
So mine's related to Divyanshi's, but what I see missing here is also leveraging, for example, people from the project going for being invited on panels, on talks, so visibility
Yeah.
in the outside sphere. But what that has done is that there's visibility on one person, for example, the founder, and then the philanthropists or the donors would like to speak to that person. That means that you cannot, for a while, delegate that responsibility to a team or anybody else. You have to carry that because they see you and they want to connect to
Yeah.
you. So
That's at a certain level. I mean, if you're talking about using the word philanthropist already, I know we're talking at a certain level of donor. I'm not necessarily talking, I mean, that's the narrow end of the funnel, right? And the founder, and especially if there's personality and charisma involved, is often going to need to pay more attention to the people at that narrow end of the funnel, inevitably. Yeah. But there's a whole other part of the funnel here, and if you're just dealing with those people and you're not dealing with the people on the outside, then you're missing a lot of opportunities for people to kind of start out as prospects and come in. So yes, I mean, definitely at that level, that has to be there. All
I
right.
have a question.
Okay.
So this is about crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Before I ask the question, I'll tell you I'm not a big fan of crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Mainly because I feel like it's hard to get the message across to so many people who are just showing enthusiasm, and then probably it's not possible to sustain their interest on a long term, and that has been my perspective. So I've never been a fan of crowdfunding, but I want to get your perspective on crowdfunding, and especially in Orwell's context. What do you think about it?
There's really no difference between crowdfunding and the wide end of the funnel. I mean, when we say crowdfunding, often we're talking about a campaign, a specific campaign to raise money for a fixed period of time. We need to raise a certain amount of money in a fixed period of time for a certain thing. So campaigns are something that I haven't really talked about yet, but that's like a concentrated version of this wide end of the funnel. You have to be interfacing, well, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to keep that flow from kind of the wider world in for potential prospects, then you have to be interfacing with the world. And if you call that crowdfunding, again, what I was saying, what's your name again? Forget. Yeah, from Ono. Erica. What I was saying to Erica, you don't want to be hitting people for money all the time on that level. You're looking for engagement. So I don't know, when you use the word crowdfunding, it can mean lots of different things. But what I'm talking about is creating opportunities and points of contact for engagement, and then gradually trying to find the people who want to come in to the lower end of the funnel and become sustainers and supporters. That's my quick answer to crowdfunding, and maybe I'll talk about it more as we go on. Okay, so we have all these pieces: email, social media, website, Facebook, social media, YouTube, social media. So all these places, people are engaged, they're interested, they're being connected. So what do they do then? Like where do you want them to go? There has to be a home base. There has to be a place that you're pointing them to. And And we're just talking about fundraising here. Just talking about if as these people thinking about how to get them to contribute money. The donation page of your website is that place. That's the place where it happens, the place where the transaction happens. I mean, of course, somebody could write you a check, or somebody could go to financial services or whatever, but if we're talking about kind of the simplest way for people to give money quickly and easily, the donation page of the website is that place. And so you kind of generally want to, it's like chutes and ladders. You want to create a sense of gravity in all of these places to this one place. And thinking about it in the context of Instagram, okay, how do we make this really simple? And again, you're not pushing people up a hill. You're making it a downhill ride for them. Just how do you make it easy? So, I don't think I can do that. I'm going to show you, I'll show you and tell you at the same time. So, AVI USA has this software that we use that some of you know about that is part of this making it easy. This donation form here on the right side of the page, people can give one time, they can give monthly. This shows up in rupees because we're in India. If you're in another country, it would show up in that country's currency. You can change the currency to whatever you want. You can set it up that people can give a tribute. If they give a tribute, then an email is going to be sent to the person that they're giving a tribute to. They can designate it, put a comment, whatever. So when people click on this, it opens up this form. We have the capacity to make these forms for any projects. I mean, a lot of you guys already have them. And when people donate, they can use, some of this might be about geolocation. They can use Google Pay, PayPal, credit card. I guess there's no Venmo in India, but Venmo is something in America that people can use. And bank transfer, for some reason, isn't. Sometimes certain things don't show up depending on where I am, and I don't know what that is. But basically the point is, this is super simple. It's people can use their phone. I can create a QR code. You can embed this form in your website, whatever, your donation page is. And it doesn't, I, for myself, have tried to use Razorpay and it doesn't work with my credit card. As soon as there's one thing in the way, you've lost them. And they're probably, whatever, some of them might come back. But the opportunity is lost. When we implemented this software, the number of donors and the amount of donations increased by about 5 times within a year of implementing this. Now it was COVID, and there was some other things, so I can't necessarily say it was all that, but 5 times is 5 times. That's not 2 times. So a lot of it was, I think, people who had been like, how do I donate to Oroville? I have to go to the bank and print out this wire form and pay $50, and oh my God, and of course, we're dealing with the US, so it's different for people in different countries, but in the US, it seemed like there was a lot of pent-up desire and intention to support Oroville projects that we just were like, here, do this, and they're like, oh yeah, great, and it just opened the floodgates, and it was very positive. So we offer this to any project, and I'll actually go back here and show you.
10% transaction cost goes to the software?
So basically, this amount is because it's 1,000 rupees that it'll change. This, yes, it's an estimation of transaction costs, so it might be different. AVI USA keeps 10% of every donation, regardless of what that is. So we cover all transaction costs. We cover credit card, we cover Stripe, we cover whatever there is. We cover the wire transfer fee of getting the money here. We send money to Oroville, to Unity Fund once a month, and we send a list of all the projects that we're supporting. And then we send an email to the project and say, you received this much money this month, go to Unity Fund and claim it. If you want to, here are the donors, this is how much, this is their email addresses, this is how much they gave. We also have the capacity to set up reports so that a project can be notified if somebody donates through the portal. But our rate is 10% regardless. So if that ends up being 10%, then we break even. If it ends up being 5%, then that 5% goes to cover some of our administrative costs, very small amount. Global giving keeps about 18%, depending on the situation. And most things like this, I know there's like Keto and stuff that make it optional, or that the person can add it and then there's no cost to the organization. But most things like this, 15% is the standard. And then you're dealing with somebody that doesn't care about Oroville at all. That's all we care about. So, yeah. I'm going to just show you a few other ways that projects have incorporated this. I'm hoping. Oh, that's just one. Okay, so this is just an example of a unique one, right? Wasteless has their own portal. It's got their picture. So any money that comes in on this thing, it comes into our database already flagged for Wasteless. So I don't have to do anything. I don't have to, remember to make sure that this money goes to Wasteless. In our software, it's already flagged to go there. And I'm just going to show you a few other examples of widgets that this software has. So this is the Sanskrit Research Institute. You see here this thing, this little blue button shows up on every page of the website. And if you click on it, it brings up this. So anybody who donates here, it comes in through the same direction. So that little blue sticky button is an option. It doesn't have to be blue. It could be any color. I'll just show you these two more options. Driven Permanence has it as a Donate Now button, and the same thing. If you click that button, then the form comes up. These guys have it embedded. Botanical Gardens has it embedded into their website. So any of these options are there. We also have fancy things like goal meters, and you can, have the donor's name show up on the page and other fancy widgets like that. But I'm not going to get too into those things. That's like things to consider later on. So this is not presenting.
Matthew,
Yeah.
is it possible to make this button that we have on the website also on the social media?
You can't
The website is
embed.
really nice how it works. But
Yeah. You can't embed the button in social media.
we can.
You can't. No. You can, because social media has its own interface. Like there's no code. You can't insert code into an Instagram post or anything like that. But that's why that.
Put a link.
Yeah, that's why I was talking before here about you want to use all these things to point to that one. You got to figure out what's your spot. What's your place that you want people to land, and then you point there.
May I ask you about those forms to send money, to donate money? Connect to what? To AVI USA?
The money comes to AVI USA,
Okay.
and then, like I said before, we send money every month to Oroville. So all the money that comes in September, we send in October. All the money that comes in October, we send in November. And as soon as it arrives at Unity Fund, we send an email to every unit that received funding. And there are projects that are receiving monthly contributions now. Our service is receiving monthly contributions. Mohan's receiving monthly contributions. So people have signed up, clicked the monthly thing, and this is where I think the opportunity is. I mean, Mitra talking about abundance in this. When I think about what's the rubric of success, what's possible, I think that monthly recurring donors. Imagine if you had 10, 20, 30 people who every month, they're not remembering because their credit card or their PayPal account is remembering, automatically are sending you money. That's money you can rely on. You don't have to be like, oh, where's this going to come from? Or I have to apply to PCG, or I have to apply to SIRE, or I have to figure out a project. This is consistent, regular funding. If that's happening, then that's not all that's happening, because that means that you're engaging with donors, that means that you're connecting with them, and there's also other opportunities there for asking for specific gifts and doing campaigns and stuff like that. So it's almost like that's the tip of the iceberg that we can see to measure that something is successful. If you're starting to have recurring donors who are, funding, those are the sustainers kind of from before.
Is this software or application, whatever you call it, generate reports with the names of the donors?
Yes.
Because I never got, I got some donation, I never got the name or the address. Maybe you want to.
So there are two reasons why you may not have gotten it. One is maybe the email didn't go through. But every time the money arrives at Unity Fund, we send an email to the project and say, these are the people that donated.
You got the name of the people? Okay.
Every time.
With email or something?
Yes, with email. So if it happens and you don't get that email, then let us know there's something funny going on. We can also set up a report. So if you say, every time somebody donates to Wasteless, I want to get an email about that. I can set that up to be automatic. But that's different than, we already have a system where we're doing it regularly.
To activate that automatism to pass through ABI USA, the project or the unit does have to make an agreement with ABI USA, or how is it?
So there's a Google form. So the Flourish team will send out an email after this with the slides and with the link to the Google form that you can fill out. And if you fill that form out, then I have the information I need to build one of these for you. And then we go from there. Krishna.
Hi, Matthew. Just to say, are you aware of the FCRA, because the new, and then we can't use, only 20% of this money can be used towards admin. And so then it actually needs a specific cause which the money is coming towards for us to spend it on that.
Yes, that is another layer of complexity that I'm less familiar with, but I know that in general there are FCRA rules and that Unity Fund is starting to create some reporting structures for you guys that you have to adhere to. And some of it has to do with the duration of time that you have to spend the money, and some of it has to do with what you can spend the money on.
Yes, so this thing, it changes the value. These monthly donations, they're really good and very helpful, but we cannot use them for running the service. It's a very small part of it. However, if it's when you actually put a project and then the donation comes for that, then in that project you can include administration costs and then the money can be used.
But running costs you can't.
Yeah, so just because we were discussing, asking for donation for project-wise or getting a regular, this is the issue.
It's a shame because it's always in the nonprofit world, there's this pressure to come up with a project. And it's just really the worst way to manage a project, is to always be thinking about how can I come up with a new project. Because you're doing something already, that's the project. And obviously, if you weren't doing something worthwhile, it wouldn't be existing.
So actually, we have to run the service from the Indian donors and use the foreign donor money for whatever could be considered art projects, which the Unity Fund will accept. These are art projects.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a way to work within the system to make it work, but there's a little bit of
tweaking.
Yeah.
Finessing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a project that is registered with the ABI USA because I have received donation emails before.
Yeah.
But I don't have any of these links or anything.
What's your project?
Enroll links.
You're Nina. So I think those projects, those funds came through specific donors that just donated on our donation page and flagged your project. So if you want to have your own portal, then again, you'll get the Google link, you fill that form out, and I'll create one for you. Yeah, nice to meet you.
To have a face.
Yeah, exactly. So the other, this is kind of like, well, is there any other questions about this form situation? just before we go on. I'll make sure I follow here. Okay, I know a lot of the projects already have these. And what I'm emphasizing in all of this is less that particular form and more this. You gotta have something. If you don't have something that is pointing people to a place to make donations, then it's hard. You're creating obstacles, there's roadblocks. Live events are another way, aside from social media and emails and just kind of general stuff. You can create a place to interact with projects, and I'm just going to show you a few of these pages that we've created to. This is a live event that we did with Orokia recently. So we invite people to come on a certain time online, and this is something that you can do. Just use Zoom. It's pretty simple. And then the request is just to make a donation in any amount in order to register. So people can donate, 800 rupees. You can change this amount. And then you have their email address. They've given a donation. They've come. They've interacted, and then you follow up from there. But it's just a really great way to have a live and make it good. You have to make it interesting and compelling and engaging if somebody's going to take their time. But it's a big world out there, and especially your social media followers, people who are interested in your project, they might want to know more. And that's your chance to interact with them directly. I had a few more links. So our Sugan's thing was more of like a conversation with him. There was a short video about the project. This is Inyan. This was like a film that we premiered online, and a lot of people showed up. I don't remember the numbers right now, but Yatra Arts created this, short film, and the world premiere was through the AVI USA website. So thinking about, and then Surya Performance Lab did one, Joy of Impermanence. It was the same thing. It was a film premiere. So what are people going to kind of want to come and do? What are they going to be interested in? And think about that in relation to your project. Maybe at Tamrai it's like, talking to the kids, just having direct interaction. Maybe there's a short performance the kids can give, and people can ask them questions, or you could do it like Tamil class where the kids teach Tamil to the international audience, and just things like that. In our experience, the things that have worked the best are these kind of film premiere things where there's a specific draw. That tends to be the things that people come to more than others. But these are in the slides. You're going to get the slides.
A question that's kind of relevant, which is, would
Yeah.
we promote a live event? If somebody wants to do a live event, will we promote?
I mean, so we do live events once a month, and so we have to be selective. So yes, we're kind of looking for live events to do, but we can only do one a month, and so I can't say to everybody, yes, we will do a live event for you. But if you want to be in touch with us, we will talk about it.
Or we'll share their information if they're doing it.
Yeah. If you guys are going to set it up on your own, that's something we can put in our social media and our email newsletter and stuff. I mean, that's really the whole intention of this workshop and that question. It's like, if you guys do these things, we're out there right now, just so you know, Venus, when Venus thinks she's calling people to talk to them about donating to Oroville. We're out there finding donors and connecting them to projects proactively. And we may not have done that for your project specifically, but we are doing it. Some of it depends on what the donor's interest is and things like that. If you start doing that too, and we're all kind of in that space together, there's so much more that's possible. So we're doing live events, yes, and maybe we do a live event for a particular project and people come. But if you do a live event and you do a live event, and we're promoting all of those live events, then there's just a lot more possibility than just everybody waiting in line for us to do the live event for them. These are just some basic facts about email marketing. 13% of emails are opened and read within 5 minutes. It's not very much. Over 50% of people who receive an email about a crowdfunding campaign donate. So that's your crowdfunding question, Davey.
Yeah. I'm more concerned when I ask my question. I wanted to also ask, in a crowdfunding campaign, the message does not necessarily get across. It's an initial enthusiasm about the campaign itself that make the people engage, whether they donate or not. But then, in the context of Oroville, I'm more interested in getting the message across and see that the people who are engaging connect with the message as well, besides donating if they want to.
The
I
thing
don't
is,
see that happening in
yeah, what you're talking about is that there has to be follow-up. So it's not necessarily that the crowdfunding campaign is not a good idea. It's that a crowdfunding campaign without any follow-up has limitations. So if you do the follow-up, the crowdfunding campaign becomes a great opportunity to connect with a bunch of new people. But then that's when you get the message across. So doing something that doesn't directly get the message across the first time is not necessarily a bad thing. You have time then to interact with those people, and I mean, I say you have time. Of course, nobody has time for anything, but you have an opportunity to build relationships with those people who have come through. And we're talking about crowdfunding. I think in this context, what they're talking about with crowdfunding is people asking people. And our fundraising software does have that capacity, where somebody can sign up to do a fundraising campaign themselves. So like any random person, one of your donors could say, I want to do a fundraising campaign for Wellpaper or for Tamaran or for YouthLink. They can do and then they're sending out emails to their friends, and they get a little web page that they can promote. And so that's a functionality of the fundraising software that if you want to get into it, and if you have 10 people doing that, then that's multiplying the opportunities for people to be interfacing with the world and inviting people to contribute to your organization is the thing that we're talking about here. So it's not just one, but many, many. Just a few more kind of social media sort of statistic things. Right now, they're saying, this source is saying 57% of traffic to that fundraising campaign page is coming from social media. Not, a third of people more or less are saying social media is so they may not identify that, but the traffic is actually coming. When they think about what the reason was that they gave, they may not say a social media post, but the traffic is going to the pages. And then, yeah. Blog.walls.io. And again, you'll get these slides, it's got all the information. And this is, I think, the last thing. Just quickly, moves management is a fundraising theory, a fundraising kind of structure. So this is a little bit of a summary, but it's a way of strategically thinking about how you're going to approach fundraising. So defining the audience. This is, Michael, kind of back to your question. Who are the people that are likely to engage? Defining them and reaching out to them and shaping their content to meet them. Identifying prospects. Okay, so out of that group, who are the people that I'm going to spend more time on, more attention to, I'm going to reach out to directly. Setting goals for each of those prospects. So this is a person, I have a general sense of their engagement and their capacity, so my hope is that over the next year, that person will give this much. Creating a cultivation plan to cultivate those prospects. So you have a goal and then you have a plan for how and this is kind of like each person. It's fairly, what's the word? What's that? Yeah. The word is not coming to me, but this is the high end of the funnel. We're coming in, but this is specifically setting goals for each person, creating a cultivation plan for each person. Then you get to making the ask for each person. So what is it that you want this person to do? It may be, would you become a recurring donor? It may be, would you give a major gift? It may be, would you ask 10 friends to come and do something? It doesn't have to be necessarily a specific financial ask. And then determine the next steps. And then you so this is like a specific fundraising framework that's used by many fundraisers out there in the world. And thinking through each of the steps, setting goals, being strategic. Oh, there's this other thing, tributes. We have found that people want to support someone who passes away. People want to support what they care about. We had the opportunity. Bina actually spoke with Brian Walton, who was one of our board members, before he passed, and he wrote a letter inviting people. And he's been involved. He was in Orville in the 70s. He's been involved with Orville International for like 50 years. Had lots of friends around the world. And so we created this webpage, and he specifically invited people to donate to Malarkey. And he wrote a letter saying, "Dear friends, please," It was really powerful. It was very successful, and it meant a lot to a lot of people. And so this is something that, it's a hard thing to talk about sometimes with people, but it's so beautiful when somebody can inspire people with their life in that way. And this again comes back to this isn't about scarcity. This isn't about Brian's not trying to get people to do something. He's kind of leveraging the inspiration of his life to support a project that he cares about and it's meaningful to him. So, a lot of times something like this is kind of after someone has passed away. You can think about, we're in a conversation right now with a family of somebody an early Orville pioneer who just passed away, talking to the family about what would they like to do. This is a rare instance where we're actually able to talk to the person and have them directly engaged in the process. But it's a time when people are paying attention, and people send flowers, and people send, often people will say, in lieu of flowers, make a donation to X, and that might be in the newspaper, it might go out to the family, there might be a kind of memorial service. So it's an opportunity for, the important work that you're doing to be connected to this person's life who really cares about you. And obviously it's very unique. You can't just be like, hey, random supporter. When you die, can you tell people to donate to us? It has to be a cultivated relationship. It has to be something that's really, that your organization is super meaningful to this person.
It also brings a lot of people who don't know Orville.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people donated to Brian's campaign that, knew him from different parts of his life. And then they're connected to Orville. And you have the opportunity to tell them about your project. And this is one of those things. Tixon's not here. Huh? A lot of people donated, and that's a huge opportunity for Malarkey to then keep, guess what happened as a result of your donation? They didn't donate because they knew anything about Malarkey. They didn't know anything at all. But now it's an opportunity to keep them engaged. We also did a tribute for Shraddha when she passed away. And this was less, we didn't have the opportunity to speak with her, but we knew that her life impacted so many people. So we created this page for her. And okay, so this is just the summary here. First time donor, second time donor, recurring donor. There's supposed to be an arrow. Does that come next? Oh, there it is. This is the funnel. The funnel starts out here, but developing your donors. This is we're shifting away from social media, email, broad-based campaign to thinking about people as individuals and cultivating relationships with them. And this is the thing, Danny, to your question, this takes more time than anything, and the payoff is bigger than anything. And so, and it also does sometimes necessitate somebody who's been with the organization for a volunteer who just started. You don't necessarily want them cultivating the major donors and super fans. A volunteer who's going to be in and out in 6 months. You want somebody who's invested, who's been around since the beginning, who has the deep story and the real passion about the organization. So you can't necessarily offload that work, but the possibility is huge there. And so if you can make time for it, especially with consistency, and maybe, I think a lot of times what happens is founders or people who are the leaders of an organization, there's certain things you can't offload like this, but there are other things you can offload. And a lot of times we kind of gather everything to ourselves and we don't really trust other people to do stuff, but starting to think about, okay, this is actually super important. I need to make time for this. What can I let go of? What can I give to somebody else so that I can make time for this? It's an important question. And I'm there in that same space with you. Also have a lot of stuff going on and have to prioritize in that way. This is my stuff. Again, you'll get the slides. I welcome your contacts and questions and suggestions and ideas. And we are here for you. That's why we exist. ABI USA. But I actually feel that about myself. I can say that sincerely. I feel like I exist to support Oroville in a way that I don't understand. It's like it's in my blood, it's in my bones to do this. So I'm happy to be connected and to be in touch. And if there's any other questions that you think, so much of this is a general overview. Obviously, there's a lot of nuanced individual questions for your organization and your situation. Happy to talk through those. But if there's any other kind of general things that apply to everybody.
I just wanted to ask, if there's some group starts doing really well with crowdfunding, and another one is doing really well with individual donors. Would there be a reason for the groups that, let's say you kind of find your niche, is there a reason to branch out in the other direction, or should you sort of just keep going with what's naturally working for you?
It's a funnel. So you can focus on one part of the funnel and you'll get the benefit of working on that part of the funnel. But there's opportunity loss because you're not working on the whole funnel. So you're saying should, but use the word should. I'm not going to tell anybody what they should do, but there's opportunity loss because the funnel exists whether you pay attention to it or not. And if you're only paying attention to it for that one part, you're going to reap the opportunities of that one part.
Okay.
And it's almost like you're just letting people slide through your fingers. If you're only focusing on the front end, you're just like, there's so many things that could be happening and you're not capitalizing on them.
So you want to try to balance.
That's what I would suggest is to, attend to all parts of the funnel. But this is obviously, Danny's question's legit. People got busy lives and a lot of stuff going on. So you have to prioritize where you can and maybe you start somewhere. But the ideal situation is that the whole thing is covered. And I think it's also, you can think about okay, what would it take? What would it take so that we could get there? So that we, as an organization, we could be covering all these things. We could be, making sure that we're both doing public outreach and also thanking every donor and talking to every donor. What would that take? How are we going to get there? Plan, set a course in that direction. Okay. It's a long time to be sitting in one place. I at least got to walk around. So I appreciate your patience and attention, and as I said, I'm happy. And if you would like to see me in a totally different context, tomorrow night I'll be playing a kirtan just at Progress Hall, which is somewhere, I don't know where we are, that way. Yeah, at 6 o'clock. So that'll be very different context, less technical. But I'd love to see you there. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.